Origin of death. Berber. In the beginning, when the world was young and the mountains of the Atlas were still learning their shapes, there was no such thing as death. The Amazigh people lived in endless cycles of days, watching the sun rise and set over the golden dunes and rocky peaks, never knowing farewell, never understanding loss. In those ancient times, the Creator dwelled in the highest heavens, beyond even where the eagles dared to fly. He watched over his creation with careful eyes, and he saw that the earth was becoming crowded. The old remained strong, the young had nowhere to grow, and the land groaned under the weight of so many feet walking upon it. One morning, as the first light touched the peak of Mount Tubkal, the Creator called forth two messengers. The first was the dog, loyal and swift, with legs built for running across vast distances. The second was the goat, sure-footed and stubborn, with eyes that could see the truth in all things. "Go down to the people," the Creator said to the dog. "Tell them this message, and speak it exactly as I give it to you. You shall die, but you shall also return. Like the moon that vanishes and is reborn, like the seeds that sleep in winter and wake in spring, so too shall you journey to the land of shadows and come back renewed." The dog bowed low, his tail wagging with the honor of this great responsibility. "I shall run like the wind itself," he promised. "Your words will reach the people before the sun climbs to midday." Then the Creator turned to the goat. "Follow behind the dog," he instructed. "Ensure that the message is delivered correctly. Watch and listen, for this message will shape the destiny of all humankind." The goat nodded slowly, his horizontal pupils reflecting the morning sky. "I shall not fail you," he said. And so the two messengers began their descent from the heavens, following the path that connected the divine realm to the earthly one. The dog ran ahead with great speed, his paws barely touching the ground, so eager was he to complete his sacred task. The goat followed at his own steady pace, careful with each step, mindful of loose stones and hidden dangers. But as the dog raced down the mountainside, he came upon a camp of travelers who had stopped to prepare their morning meal. The smell of roasting meat and fresh bread filled the air, and the dog's stomach growled with sudden hunger. He had not eaten before beginning his journey, so consumed was he with the importance of his mission. "Surely," the dog thought to himself, "I have time for just a small bite. I am so far ahead of the goat, and the people have waited this long. What is a few moments more?" He approached the travelers, who welcomed him warmly and offered him scraps from their breakfast. The dog ate gratefully, then ate some more, for the food was delicious and the travelers generous. He rested in the shade of their tent as the sun climbed higher, and the travelers told him stories and scratched behind his ears. Meanwhile, the goat continued his steady descent, neither hurrying nor delaying, placing each hoof with deliberate care. When the dog finally remembered his duty and leaped up to continue his journey, the sun was already past its highest point. He ran even faster than before, his heart pounding with worry, his tongue hanging from the effort. But in his haste and his guilt, something happened to the message he carried. The words began to shift in his mind, jumbling and rearranging themselves like stones tumbling down a hillside. The dog reached the great gathering place of the Amazigh people, a wide valley where the tribes had assembled for trade and celebration. Hundreds of people looked up as he arrived, panting and exhausted, barely able to speak. "A message!" someone cried. "A messenger from the Creator!" The people gathered around, and an elder stepped forward. "Speak, faithful dog. What word does the Creator send to us? The dog tried to remember the exact words, but they had become confused in his mind during his desperate run. He opened his mouth and said, "The Creator declares, you shall die, and you shall not return. Like the moon that vanishes. No, like the stone that falls from the cliff and shatters, never to be whole again." He trailed off, suddenly uncertain. Was that right? The people stared at him with growing fear and confusion. "Are you certain of this message?" the elder asked, her voice trembling. I think," the dog stammered, but before he could correct himself, a commotion arose at the edge of the gathering. The goat had arrived. The sure-footed messenger walked calmly into the center of the crowd, and the people parted to let him through. He looked at the dog with his strange, knowing eyes, then turned to address the assembly. "I followed behind to ensure the message was delivered correctly," the goat said, his voice clear and steady. "But I see I have arrived too late. The dog has already spoken." "What was the true message?" the elder demanded. "Was it as the dog said?" The goat was silent for a long moment, chewing thoughtfully. Then he said something that would echo through all the generations to come. "The message has been spoken. Once words are released into the world, they cannot be taken back. Once a thing is said, it becomes truth. The dog has declared your fate, and so it shall be." "But surely the Creator," someone began. "The Creator chose his messengers," the goat interrupted. "The responsibility was ours. The dog spoke first, and in the order of things, the first word carries the weight of law. You shall die, and you shall not return." A great wailing rose from the people. Mothers clutched their children, elders embraced each other, and young lovers felt for the first time the cold shadow of an ending they could not escape. The dog realized what he had done and howled with anguish, a sound of such sorrow that dogs still carry it in their voices to this day. The goat turned and began his journey back up the mountain. The dog tried to follow, desperate to beg the Creator for another chance, but he found he could no longer climb to the heavenly realm. The path was closed to him. From that day forward, death became part of the human experience. The first to die was an old woman, a grandmother who had lived so long she had forgotten how to count her years. She closed her eyes one evening as the sun set behind the mountains, and she simply did not wake with the dawn. The people mourned her, not knowing yet how to honor the dead, learning grief for the first time. But as the seasons turned and more deaths followed, the Amazigh people began to develop wisdom that comes only from understanding endings. They learned to cherish each day, to speak love aloud rather than assuming forever, to pass down their stories and knowledge to the young while they still could. They learned that knowing life was temporary made it more precious, like water in the desert, like shade on a burning afternoon. The dog, consumed with guilt, pledged himself to humanity's service. "Since I have brought you death," he said, "I shall spend all my days helping you live. I will guard your flocks, protect your homes, and love you with a loyalty that never wavers." And this is why dogs live alongside humans still, faithful unto their own deaths, trying eternally to make amends for that ancient mistake. The goat, for his part, wandered the mountains, neither fully wild nor fully tame, keeping the secrets of what the original message truly was. Some say he still knows, and that if you meet a goat on a lonely mountain path and look into his strange horizontal eyes, you might glimpse there the truth of what could have been, the promise of return, of rebirth, of death that was only a doorway rather than a wall. And in the highest heavens, the Creator watched all of this unfold and did not intervene. For he had given his creation the gift of consequence, and with consequence came meaning, and with meaning came the bittersweet beauty of a life that must end. To this day, the Amazi people tell this story around their fires, teaching their children why we must die and why we must therefore learn to truly live. They honor their dead with rituals and remembrance, and they whisper thanks to the goat who kept the secret, and forgiveness to the dog who loved them enough to stay despite his shame. And sometimes, on quiet nights in the Atlas Mountains, you can hear the wind carrying two sounds: the howl of a dog mourning what was lost, and the distant bleat of a goat who alone remembers what might have been. This is how death came to the world, and why it remains. This is the story the grandmothers tell, and the story that will be told long after we ourselves have walked the path that has no return.